And we're live.
Bam, we're live.
Bam, we're live. So what? I know this is not a faith-based topic, but what is your opinion of the college football playoff system this year? Like it, dislike it?
I like it. It's hard to pass
What's
judgment
your-
until it happens.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know. Some of the picks are a little. Okay, let me start with this. So what strength of schedule? Your Boise State, I know Arizona State they're not in as of right now. Indiana, Penn State, which Penn State's a little bit of an exception. But what's your take? I know you're a Mizzou fan, being in the SEC, which is not even, you can't argue that it's the strongest conference. I don't think, especially not this year. What's up, Kenneth?
What conference is the strongest?
SEC.
Okay. So you can't
100%.
argue that it's not the strongest.
Right. Yeah. I might have not worded that right.
I don't really care where they're ranked as long as like the 12 teams that are in, like I can agree with that, right? And there's going to be like 4 or 5 SEC teams in the top 12. I do not care if Oregon's first and Penn State's third and Texas is fifth. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Because as long as the top 12 teams are like the top 12 teams, all good. I think it gives room for Boise State, like if they go undefeated, right? And I know they don't have to, but like a team like that, where they can get in, right? Or University of Central Florida when they went undefeated that one year, but they didn't get a Big Four. They didn't get to be in the top 4. I think USF was like 12-1 one year. I remember the Boise State team when they beat Oklahoma with like that Statue of Liberty play. Like that was a big deal. And they didn't play for the national championship and they were undefeated. So like it leaves room for teams like that. I think Georgia or Texas is going to win the national championship. It annoys me whenever there's like a whole bunch of Big Ten schools in the top 12 because they just haven't played anybody, and then they play one person and they're 12-1. Like Indiana's going to make the playoff and they're 12-1, and they lost to Ohio State, who just lost to somebody not very good, or Michigan, who just lost to Michigan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Indiana,
Michigan,
and Indiana
5-7, I think.
Yeah, and Indiana wasn't close to being competitive with Ohio State, but they haven't played anybody, so they get to play in the playoff because they're 12-1. That annoys me, but as long as like the SEC schools that should be there get to be there, like I think it's fine. And then if somebody beats them, somebody beats them. I know a lot of people have a problem with SEC people thinking like they're so much better. They think they're so much better because they are so much better. Every single year in the NFL draft, the SEC leads the amount of players that are picked from their conference. What does that tell you? They have the best players.
Yeah, you can't argue it.
Every year. I don't know a year where there's not, like, go back. I went back like 8 years and it was every single year. And I don't think it was any different back in Tim Tebow days, back in when Alabama won 3 out of 4. And then I went back as far as like when Clemson was good, because I know Clemson had some really good teams. But like you keep going back, SEC was way more like dominant in like 2007, right?
Was that the 2007? Was that Vince Young at Texas? And
I think that was
he like 03, 6? Those years may have been a little bit. Well, I don't want to say exception. Yeah, because it was just USC and Texas, really.
And that was 2004. Sorry, USC was 2004 because I know Ohio State was
That was
2002.
Reggie Bush.
So yeah, I would say USC when they had their run, that was the last time the SEC wasn't the most dominant conference.
Yeah. But that was only one school, you know.
Yeah, but Texas was the second best team. Like, SEC
and that was for like
good,
3 or 4 years running, if I remember that right. Which I was young.
And then Miami was before that.
Yeah.
99 to 02. So it's not like forever, but I would say since 2007, Cam Newton and above. There's nobody better. Somebody like they might not have won the national championship one of those years, but like obviously Clemson's got 1 or 2, and Ohio State snuck 1 or 2 in there, but it's few and far between, man. So I mean, I like it just because I think the right things will come from it. I think it's a raw deal when a team like Boise State goes undefeated and they can't make it. It's kind of a raw deal, man. I think they deserve a chance.
Yeah.
Do I think they'll win?
And I definitely
think
now with 12 teams, it makes more sense because if with 4 teams, you had, was it 2 years ago when TCU went and first round, I mean, got absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
And that was one of those cases where it's like, okay, I think the committee kind of said, okay, we're gonna give them a shot.
And they only do that because, like, guys, we can't make it 2 of the 4 teams, SEC teams. We can't do it. And then, like, I'd be interested, and I don't know off the top of my head, how many times that 5th team was an SEC team.
Is an SEC team, yeah.
Because they're like, we can't put Alabama and Georgia in it every time.
Mm-hmm. I think the TCU, if I remember right, I think the TCU year, I think Ohio State was number 5 because there was that was the big fuss that TCU got in over Ohio State. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could be wrong on that.
But, and I do think, I think it would take a miracle run and it's less like basketball. But I think eventually there will be a Cinderella team that actually wins the national championship. Now it's possible.
And that's going to be cool. Yeah, with the 4 teams or a 4-team playoff, it's not saying it's not possible, but it's very unlikely for like you said, a Cinderella team.
What's funny is like Texas is a new SEC team. I don't even know if they really count as SEC, but they are in the SEC, and I think that's the best team. I think they're going to win the national championship. Is Texas, and it's like their first year in the SEC.
Yeah, they are. They're good. Georgia had an off game Saturday. Where's Oregon these days?
They're ranked number 1.
Yep, they're
good luck to them
right now.
They've been ranked number 1 before.
I think they'll get absolutely blown out. Strength of schedule.
See, they don't play anybody. like we'll see.
When you're beating all your teams by 30, 40, 50 points, like, come on, dude.
I think it hurts you. So like when there's an Alabama or Georgia team that's undefeated, like they're so much better than everybody else in the country. Because like what people don't get, and like I think people like get frustrated with SEC people, but that's because teams like Mizzou, I think would be like teams like Mizzou will dust Indiana. You know what I mean? Like that time. Like Indiana's gonna go to the playoff. Indiana's 12-1. Played nobody. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mizzou will dust Indiana. But here's the thing, like Mizzou beat Ohio State last year. I know there's people who didn't play because it sat out for the draft. But still, and like Mizzou's just another SEC team. They're just a regular team. They're not great. They're not bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like a Florida or Tennessee's good this year, but they have their up years and their down years. But like they're not. They're just another team. They're not this like elite pedigree of a team, right? And like those SEC teams, I think are just way better than everybody else's like not top tier teams. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Oregon beats Mizzou, right? Ohio State, I'll say, would beat Mizzou, or who else is up there? But like a Penn State,
SMU.
I don't know if Penn State beats Mizzou. Like I bet it's a good game.
You don't
And
know because they
might,
they don't.
right? They might beat them. They probably should beat them, but I bet it's a close game, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
SMU, I'll take Mizzou. And now if you say Texas versus Mizzou, I think we're about to get stomped. You see, like there's a difference.
I think SMU's that team that they're another one that they haven't really played very many people, and I think Clemson's going to stomp them. I hope they don't, because it's really going to tick me off if
Clemson got a really bad rap
sneaks in
from the first game of the season.
Yes, they did. That's the kind of stuff that aggravates me, and that's which it is what it is. But that's one thing that's gonna kind of shake things up with the 12 teams is you're gonna have and not dogging Clemson, but you're gonna have a Clemson team that just because and I'm not saying they're gonna win. I think they'll beat SMU, but say they beat SMU, you're gonna have a Clemson team that's scored 3 points, other than the 14 they scored against Carolina. So that's even with that, all year you've scored 17 points total against ranked opponents, and you're going to be in the college football playoff. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff. Just because you have a conference championship, that's the kind of stuff that's going to shake things up. It's maybe not as much this year because you're only going to have that with 1 or 2 teams, but later on when you have these, Pac-12, Big Ten, whatever conferences that the conference champion is a 5-loss team, well, then what are you going to do? It's going to be interesting. I think it'll be fun. Like, overall for college football, I think it's going to be a great thing because going to get.
I mean, they just make
it's
money.
more football to watch. Yeah, and I saw something earlier this week saying that if you don't think that politics has anything to do with the playoff picks, you're very mistaken. Based on the money, who brings the most fans. Like their argument was in Alabama, a 3-loss Alabama is always going to be in it because they always bring a huge crowd. I can see arguments both ways.
I mean, I think a 3-loss Alabama team is still better than SMU.
Oh, 100%.
Or better than Indiana, or better than Penn State. Like, I'll take a 3-loss in Alabama all day.
Oh, for sure. Dude, freaking, what's his name? Milroe? Is that how you say it? Milroe? Dude, he's the real deal.
He's a college quarterback.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's good.
There's certain people who are good in college.
Oh yeah, I mean, even you look at
Jalen Milroe is one of those people.
Shockingly, there's a lot of those that you see this in college, and it's like they're gonna be lights out in the NFL. I mean, I'm a huge Tim Tebow fan. He didn't do it in the NFL. That was not for him.
Dude, most running quarterbacks. If running is your best quality as a quarterback, I don't buy it.
I think the biggest one is Johnny Manziel.
As a bust?
Yes, a stud in college.
I would say though, like he might have been able to be good in the NFL if he would just had a better head.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could see that too.
But like I don't know. Like Tim Tebow's best thing was running, his ability, like a different style of running than like Jalen Milroe, but it's still running. If you're like when it's 4th and 6 and you have to get a first down If your go-to under pressure is take off, you're never going to be good.
Mm.
And when I say good, I mean like lead your team to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is the best version of that possible. The best version we have ever seen. Better than Michael Vick. And what happens in the playoffs?
Mm.
He's always trash. Because his best thing is running.
Just to run.
You can be a running quarterback as you can be good at running, but you're a quarterback. I think that you have to be passing has to be your best thing.
Which is why Tom Brady sucked at running.
Well,
you know?
And I'm not saying you can't be good at running.
Right. But that wasn't his go-to.
Mahomes is decent at running. But when I say Patrick Mahomes, do you think of running or passing?
The long ball. Dude's got a freaking cannon. And he's accurate. Very accurate. I don't think running. He can.
No. That's my point. When I say Lamar Jackson, do you think passing or running?
Running.
And I just think if you're a quarterback, you're not going to that type of quarterback is not going to win the Super Bowl.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think
if Johnny Manziel had the best head in the world, he still wouldn't win the Super Bowl because that's he's going to go straight to that. Like his instincts, his fight or flight is to run.
Yeah, and I think Mike Vick is an exception. He's
how many Super Bowls did he win?
Different breed. He didn't win any, right?
Exactly, Brock. He wasn't even very close to winning any.
Falcons.
And what's funny, Michael Vick is a great example because Michael Vick was a very good passer. I think Michael Vick was a way better passer than Lamar. But until he got older, his still gut instinct was to run when he was younger. And then, I just don't think Yeah.
Vince Young, where did he play at the Titans?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got a weird story though. Vince Young kind of got shafted, I think. I don't know the whole story, but I'm almost positive he got shafted somehow. There is a weird story to Vince Young. I forget what it is, but there's a weird story to him.
Yeah, I mentioned it kind of to tie it into the faith side. I've mentioned numerous times that I'm a big Tim Tebow guy, and I never was in college. I honestly didn't hate him, but being a Carolina fan, I didn't care for Georgia. Not Georgia, sorry, Florida. But growing up and seeing his impact on people, seeing his witness, the way he uses his platform. I've been reading in Luke, and I'm doing a chapter of Luke every day during December or whatever, and leading up to Christmas. And in chapter 3, it says, verse 8, it says, "Prove by the way you live that you have repented of your sins and turned to God. Don't just say to each other, 'We're safe, for we're descendants of Abraham.' That means nothing. God can create children of Abraham from these very stones." And I always think of Tebow whenever you're talking about stuff like that, because he's a perfect example of. His dad's a pastor, or was a pastor, was a missionary. He had every right to say. It's kind of like Paul whenever Paul was saying, I'm a Jew by blood. I'm this. I've got this pedigree, whatever. But that means nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I love to see a guy like a Tim Tebow. There's many other ones, obviously, succeed.
And the Tebow run was crazy. What's funny is he was not a good quarterback, but he still won.
Yeah.
It was so funny for him to just be the trashiest quarterback you've ever seen for the first 3 quarters. And then like the last 10
Crunch
minutes of
time.
the game, time turn on.
Yep.
He would just find a way to win every single time.
He was the guy that you wanted to call.
So funny. I was like, I just remember how many people like sports analysts, because I used to watch a lot of those guys. I only watch like 1 or 2 now, but I used to watch them all, and like they just would hate Tim Tebow, and I don't know if it's because he's Christian or just because he was a bad quarterback, but like they just couldn't do it. And there was one guy who always like, I don't know how he's going to do it, but I'm not going to bet against him. He's like, he might throw for 33 yards. I bet you they win. And it was just when he won the playoff game, it was just such a great moment. No, I love things like that when there's this like crazy run. Hold on 1 second.
You're good.
What I think the most fun things in sports ever is these weird runs that happen from like the most unexpected places. And like Tebow Mania was one of those things. Lynn Sanity, when Jeremy Lin just had 10 games where he's the best guy in the NBA. Like it's such a weird thing to happen. And then all of a sudden you'll take Jeremy Lin over Kobe Bryant any day. Like during that 10-game stretch, you're going to take Jeremy Lin all day. And it's just those type of things are so fun because you never know when they're going to happen. I'm trying to think of other things, but can you think of any unexpected runs like that? March Madness always has a couple just by the sake, the nature of it.
Yeah, I used to, I haven't in the last few years, but I used to really get into the March Madness. Because there was always, at least for the first couple rounds, there's always that team that just gets hot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love a good underdog story. What's the old boxing match? Was it Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas? Where Buster Douglas came back and beat him? Yes. Yeah. I like a story like that, dude. I love it. I know that's a little different than what you're talking about.
For that.
Oh, I know.
There's something like Peyton Hillis. Do you remember Peyton Hillis, the running back for the Browns? He was just good for 1 year. He got on the Madden cover from it, but he had 1 year. He rushed for like 1,300 yards, like 15 touchdowns. He's Cleveland Browns, just big white guy, like thick guy, just running people over, not fast. But for 1 year, somehow he was just this great running back, and then he was not good ever again. It's just the funniest, like off the wall things.
It's weird how stuff like that happens. Like you've got like for Clemson, you had a CJ Spiller years ago. I mean, he was. Oh,
dude, awesome. Yeah, such a much better one. Hunter Renfrow, man.
Oh yeah.
You're thinking of you're bringing up college guys that aren't good in the NFL. There's a million of those. You're not grasping the concept of what I'm trying to pull out right here.
I get what you're saying. But CJ Spiller, he was one like there was no doubt I don't think there was a doubt in anybody's mind that he was going to be insane in the NFL, and he just wasn't.
Oh yeah, I got you one for you. I think you can resonate with this one. Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Winning the Super Bowl, beating Tom Brady. Like that's a way better run than Tim Tebow.
Yeah. See the Eagles?
Mm-hmm. Single-handedly ruined Carson Wentz's career.
Who's another one?
I'm trying to think of like different sports.
I don't know very much about many other sports. Not like names.
I mean, Kurt Warner doesn't really count because he was kind of like just that good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a one-hit wonder. He's kind of like, just a career.
Locker room speech. What locker room speech is he talking about?
What?
Tim Tebow's locker room speech. Is that what he's talking about?
When they lost to Ole Miss.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Really? It'll pump you up. Nobody will work harder than I will for this team. Nobody will play harder than I will for this team speech.
Maybe I have seen that.
Like a lot of good will come of this. He's like crying.
Mm.
And then he says,
I love I think it was I guess it was a documentary. Was it what was it? It wasn't the Aaron Hernandez thing. It was some documentary on, I think it was on the Florida Gators, like when they had Tebow, Brandon Spikes. It might have been, but it was talking about just the like your Brandon Spikes and people like that were talking about Tim Tebow and like how he was just a completely
the Florida
different
documentary
person.
on Netflix.
Oh, it was so good. Talked about how like he going back to like living out your faith, like talking about how they would come up to Tim and like he said, I think Brandon Spikes was saying something like he would have like a picture of a naked girl or something on his phone, and he would show Tim, and Tim would be like, "Dude, I don't want to see that." Like, you know what I mean? They would invite him out to parties and like stuff like that. Like, I have a lot of respect for.
But I mean, I think they have a lot of respect too. I think that's why it works.
Absolutely, that's
you know what I mean? Because like he's as genuine as they come. Mm-hmm. Like when people and like I remember, I think it was the cornerback. I don't know his name, but he was like when people like ask about Tim Tebow and like they think like that's fake. Like, no, that's who he really is. That's how he is.
Yep.
And it's like, and like they can't even identify with it. Like they can't even resonate with it. You know what I mean? It's just something different. And that's what we're called to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're supposed to be. There's whenever we got married, Destiny had this little sign thing. I've got it hanging up at the shop at work, but it says, when people see you, they should see Jesus. And it's such a simple phrase, but it's 100% what, like you said, what we're called to be. And that's one like that. I guess that's why, like the actions speak louder than words thing. It has always, especially since becoming a Christian and trying to live it out. That's one thing that has always been so important to me, and so important, like as far as the music you listen to, the way you talk, the way you treat people, just being nice to people. And not at all saying that we've been through this before, not at all saying that doing those things is why I'm a Christian. I'm not saying that, but you should prove your faith by your works. Or say that in James. You can't rely on your good works to be your faith and to be your salvation. But because you have come to know Christ, then you should act like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's so, especially in today's, I feel like we've talked about this in every episode, but especially in today's day and time, you've got to do more than just tell people you're a Christian. You got to tell them, or you've got to show them by the way that you treat them, by the way that you talk to them, by the music you listen to around them, by the language that you use, by all of the above, and it's so easy. I've always tried to keep fresh in my mind that, you can do 100 things right to somebody, but they're going to remember the one time you screwed them over, or the one time that you got mad and cussed them out, or you know what I'm saying? Like, you can be nice to somebody for years, but it just takes that one time. That's what they're going to remember. You gotta. It's so important to always keep your guard up and try to remember that as a Christian, you wear that label, and you need to act like you deserve that label. You know what I mean? Not deserve, that's not the word, but you know what I'm saying?
Earned.
Yes. Accepted, been given. Walk the walk.
I have a question for you.
All right.
That is a completely different topic.
All right.
When somebody says that they don't believe in the Bible because it was written by man, how do you respond?
I mean, physically it was written by men, but it was the Holy Spirit. It was God was using the men, like, physically to write God was giving them the information. I mean, to me it's the same. This maybe not the same. It's similar to pastors that are preach based on being led by the Holy Spirit. God's giving them the information, they're just relaying it. You know what I'm saying? And yes, they're using the Bible, but I mean, in a sense, yeah, it was written by men, but it was God in them giving them the information to write it. God breathed is the term. Okay, I guess that could be a little tricky to explain. I mean, it makes sense to me in my head, but I guess trying to think of it from a non-believer standpoint. But I mean, if you want to get technical about it, yeah, it was written by men. But here's an example for you. So this is something that you could ask said person. Do you believe the biography that was written about George Washington 600, 500 years? Well, not George Washington, Alexander the Great, I think is the one that I've heard before. And it's like, well, the biography was written 500 or 600 years later. So what's the difference? You believe that?
He was actually in between the Old Testament and the New Testament.
So how can you
know that? So like Malachi ends on year 400, right? BC. And then there's this 400-year gap. And then there's the New Testament, right? And in that 400-year gap is the Alexandrian, the Macedonian Empire.
That's interesting.
So all of Alexander was in between those two books.
Oh, that's cool.
You can reference verses. You reference John 1:1, where Jesus is the Word, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is the Word of God. It says it right from there. That means this is the Word of God, the whole book. In the beginning, there was God. God was the Word. The Word is God, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, the person that doesn't believe the Bible, a verse is not going to suffice, right? Because they don't. It was written by man. But I try to, and I don't have like direct, and I should have these just off the top of my mind, but there are so many fulfilled prophecies with Jesus. So if you go back to the book of Isaiah, which is 1,300 years BC, right? And he tells you the Messiah will come and then his people will reject him. And and Jeremiah says the same thing. And there are so many prophecies that are fulfilled with the New Testament. It's like the New Testament, in a way, proves the Old Testament, or the Old Testament proves the New Testament, because Jesus fulfills all of these prophecies. The spear with the water that comes out of Jesus and the cross is recorded, and they say that in the Old Testament. And I wish I had like the very specific verses, but like Isaiah, Jeremiah are like the main two, and then there's plenty of others, but there's like a whole lot of prophecies that are filled with Jesus. And if these guys, like, you got to think about it, if they're written 1,000 years apart and they're talking about the same guy, the same thing that happened, how can you refute that?
Let me find this.
Like, how can you refute that Jesus is God? And then if that is the case, then the direct scripture of, like, the direct writings of his, if you can't get your head around, like, it's written by man and you don't, and like, for instance, like, you still couldn't refute the gospels, right? So anything in the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you should 100%, that's the word of God. It's directly from his followers' eyes. They're looking at him doing it, right? And like, even if you just let those 4 books like guide you, like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then Paul wrote the rest of the New Testament, and it's directly after. And if you believe that Jesus revealed himself, and Paul and Saul was blinded, and then he became Paul. Like, if you believe in Jesus, then I don't think it's that far-fetched to believe, like, then you would have to believe he resurrected and that he is God and he died on the cross for your sins. If you believe that, how could you not believe anything that Paul is writing is from God? Right? Because he revealed himself to Paul. Paul is not blinded anymore, and a completely changed individual. The Spirit came into Paul and filled him. Anything that Paul writes, how could you not refute that's the word of God? How? I'm asking.
You couldn't.
And like, you see how I got, like, how you get there? Like, you're like, okay, like, let's think of this very objectively. Like, I'm proving the existence, like, this is the real deal. This is or I'm not, but like, God is proving that, like, this is the Messiah. This is the real deal. This is the guy, through the Old Testament prophecy being fulfilled by the New Testament. So you believe in Jesus. Anything in the Gospels, you have to take it as like eyewitness account. So you believe that Jesus died on the cross for your sins. You believe that he resurrected and that he transcended and all this. And if that's the case, you believe he revealed himself to Paul. You believe everything that Paul writes is the word of God. And then that is how we should operate our lives, how the New Testament is written, how Paul lived his life. And it's I think it's very hard to convince somebody of that if they're dead set against the Bible.
Well, I think, too, if you look at, which it would be kind of hard to somebody who's against the Bible to not convince them, but to get them to kind of step back and, get an overview of it. Because if you look at, somebody who is against the Bible, but they're big on historical fact, they're that type of person. Well, it's a historical fact that all 11, obviously after Judas, all 11 disciples were murdered. What person?
John.
Yeah. So that would have been 10 out of the 11 because
And John died on the island.
So I guess that technically would be the same. And they were all other than John, which they tried with John because he was what, boiled alive.
They boiled him and then put him on the island of Patmos.
Yeah. So all of these guys died gruesome deaths. What in what kind of sense does it make to say that somebody's gonna die a death like that for a lie? And you can explain that to say we're not talking about believing the scriptures at the time. We're not talking about believing the Bible per se. They died because they wouldn't deny the resurrection. So that's what I mean by they die. You're not going to die for a lie, because if you're in that upper room 2,000 years ago and you see Jesus walk through my daughter's bedroom door right here that's closed, and Jesus is standing on this side of it,
That's probably the
I'm
only
not
thing that's
gonna
going to make you die that horrible death.
Right. And you're not going to make that. And even if I'm sitting here and I make up that story and I'm telling all these people, telling the podcast that this happened and I'm making this whole thing up, I'm not going to die for that because it's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I might, take it as far as it'll go or whatever. But you start holding a gun to my head or you start putting me in a boiling pot of water, yeah, I'm going to say, no, this is not true, because it's not. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like, I'm not going to die for something that didn't happen. If I'm going to die for it, then I saw it happen. You know what I'm saying? I 100% believe it. So how can you, same question you asked, how can you refute that? And that is historic fact. You can look up secular, what is their names? I've got their names somewhere. It's these secular historians that made notes of all these people around this time. They made notes of a man that had all these followers that did miracles, and all these disciples, that all this stuff that happened and all this. So you believe history, but you can't believe the history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's saying in my opinion, to me, saying it was written by men, so it can't be trusted. To me, that's an insane excuse, because
You
literally,
think it's an excuse just to do what you want?
yes. I mean, it has to be, because everything that you've ever learned in school was written by men. Yes, it might be a little bit different, but that argument is the same for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
How can you trust this book written on George Washington?
I think okay. I think I would say it's probably more from what it's telling you to do rather than trusting, like how you are living your life, rather than trusting Jesus, that Jesus died on the cross. But what I'm saying is they don't go, it's not one without the other. I don't think you can believe in Jesus and reject the Bible.
No, absolutely not. Well, I mean, what's the?
And if you are, then I almost think you're lying to yourself about having that relationship with Jesus. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, I don't know how you could, because that is the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you, well, let's add some context to it. If you,
because I mean, there's even some great great philosopher or like very smart people that have tried to
Mhm.
like disprove the Bible, and then they
Yeah.
couldn't, and then they became Christian. But like
Mhm.
just believing that it happened, like that Jesus, I don't know, like you can't reject the Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, you're almost, I guess you could be like, Jewish people, I guess, do that. They just believe Jesus was a prophet.
Mhm. It's the same way with most religions, actually, like Muslims, Islam. Is that the same thing? Islam and
Yeah.
Muslim? That
Yep.
is the same thing, right?
Yep. You're good.
Um, yeah, I mean, they all believe Jesus was a prophet or a good man of some sorts, you know.
Hmm. Kind of like a Gandhi like figure.
Mm. But it's
I hate,
always
I hate,
kind of
I
interesting.
hate, I hate when people go, if you put Buddha and Gandhi and Jesus in the same room, um, like there would be no arguments. Or I remember there's a saying like that out there somewhere, and I hate it so much. I'm like, okay, all right,
How would
guys,
there not be any arguments?
because they're
That's
just
interesting.
three peaceful men. That's what like
See,
the
that's the
the
thing.
idea.
People people put people put a picture of Jesus that's this soft-handed, sweet man, pretty face with a beard and long hair. Like, no, dude was a man's man. Like you can't be you can't be a
He's
wimp
a
and be a
carpenter.
carpenter.
Yeah,
You can't
I mean,
have
it's like a construction worker.
yeah, I mean you have to be a man. You're not I mean I would venture to say that dude was probably built. I mean he probably had bold shoulders and he
Ooh,
was a
I don't know. I
muscular
don't.
guy.
I think I'm owning Jesus in a CrossFit competition.
Uh, are you gonna do crescendo this year?
I don't know, man.
Oh no,
I
you'll
got.
have a fresh baby.
I'm in the grid league. Like I'm trying to do
So
that.
how's that going?
I think it's fine. I don't. We'll see. The season doesn't start till Memorial Day, but I mean, Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to get as fit as possible, but like
Yeah.
I'm. My focuses are to get good at the things that I'm good at, like really
Mm.
good.
I forgot about that. I forgot you was doing that.
I really, really want to clean 405, but I'm gonna
That's
have to.
crazy.
I'm gonna have to get stronger to do it though, like
What are you at now?
a,
385?
a decent bit stronger. 390.
Dude, that's insane.
But I can't do that right now. Like
Right, right.
I did 377 for the fittest experience qualifier, and like hadn't cleaned heavy in a long time. I was surprised, really happy with that because I had no idea where it would be. But I haven't done an actual strength cycle in like 3 years. So like I'm gonna get on the JY barbell strength cycle that I feed my people, and we're gonna see what it makes happen.
Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'll be
So
good.
that's my
405 clean. That's crazy.
because I yeah, and it's just something I think I can do if I really tried, and I don't think very many people have.
Mm.
A lot of people have tried, but like even amongst CrossFit Games people, like I think Gee's the only one. Hatfield's done 400 off the floor.
Yeah, I saw
He's
that.
he's hang cleaned 405, but I think he's just better at the hang clean. Like to straight up from the floor, I think it's harder for him. So
I think I don't know if this is for everybody. I mean, I'm not much of a weightlifter, but I think hang clean's easier. I don't.
Don't at all, but
Really?
I know a lot of people that do. A lot of people do. Maybe I'm just bad at the hang. I don't know, but uh, I think he's better at the hang. I think. Does he
I
hang?
think maybe it's a technique. Well, with a Austin Hatfield, I don't know if it's a technique. With me, it's probably a technique because to me the hang it forces me to use my hips more
Mhm.
instead of pulling.
Maybe I don't
I
use
guess
my hips enough in the hang. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I could be wildly off, but that's to me thinking back through it. I feel like hanging it forces me to use more hips because I don't have that. I guess I don't have as much momentum coming up. I don't know.
Mhm. And I think so. Like I slide when I hang, and I think people that put it in that hip pocket and can just keep it there, and I can't keep it there. I don't know if my hands are just too small or like I need to be stronger holding a weight there, but like I'm not good at keeping the weight in that hip pocket, like just keeping it there. But I'm
Mm.
so like I'll slide and then go into it, but I'm very explosive. Like once the hips that hip explosion, um, and so, I mean, there's probably a couple of reasons, but I think I'm probably bad at it. Is the honest answer with the hang clean. But my goal is to do it from the floor. I don't know very many people that have gotten that, um, especially at my body weight. You know what I mean?
How much do you weigh?
I was 199 this morning,
Oh, that's very impressive.
but I've been eating more, so like I'm surprised that I haven't gained weight yet. So maybe I'll just stay at this weight. That'd be cool. But yeah. Um, that's my goal. I want to do that before um we do our first competition.
Oh no, yeah, that'll be that'll be impressive. Yeah, I've been. This is a little off topic, but have you ever heard of a guy named Chad Wright?
It sounds familiar.
He's a he's a Christian David Goggins, pretty much is like the best way I could explain it.
Okay.
He's he's like an ex Navy SEAL. He's a ultra marathoner. He does like 100-mile races and like I don't know why that made me think of it, but just setting like he's big on like not necessarily setting goals, but just like putting your mind to something and like pushing your body to the limits and not like you can do anything. You've just got to be mentally strong. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that's one thing that I've been trying to. I get that's kind of what like the workout thing that I'm doing. Like it's really
How's it going?
it's getting tough.
Is
Like
it
it's
taking a
getting
toll?
yeah, it is, and it's not necessarily like the workout's not. I mean, it's not like it's that hard. I mean, it's anywhere from I've been anywhere from 11 to 12 minutes to I was probably close to 20 minutes today because it was just mentally it's getting tough. You know, like
Hmm.
it's not which I mean it's getting I guess my body's getting a little it needs a rest day, but it's more mental. Like today when I started the workout, like I couldn't get there. You know what I'm saying? And it was today was one of the days where I was like, okay, just finish the workout. Like
Hmm. Once you
just don't.
change it, it'll
Yeah,
I think it'll feel a lot
and I
better.
think that's what because it's I think today was like day 17, and it's like okay, dude, this is
Yeah, four
this
more
is
days.
getting yeah, this is getting wild. I mean, it's been good, but that's kind of one of the things that pushed me to do it is just to try to be more mentally, spiritually, and physically tough, you know? And I think mentally and spiritually, if you can get that in, I mean, the physical part, I'd venture to say, not venture to say, that's the easiest thing to get in check. But I think oftentimes, me personally, oftentimes I focus more on the physical than I do the mental and spiritual aspect.
Well, when you
And
do
I
what
think,
you're trying to do what you're trying to do, it's far more mental.
yeah, absolutely. And then like I'm planning to, I'm gonna do a marathon in February, as there's a marathon, Jacksonville. So I've been listening to this Chad Wright dude, and I seen this thing popped up, and I was like, I'm doing it.
So wait,
Oh,
you're doing that workout and then running? That's all you're doing?
yeah, pretty much. And I haven't even been, I don't know. I hadn't even been training for running, but
A marathon's a lot, man.
yeah, it is. My goal is to, I guess, you talking about your goal just kind of made me think of it, but my goal is to just not stop. It doesn't matter
Well,
if
you
it's a
should do a
12
better
minute
goal
mile,
than that. I was
12
my
minute
goal when I
mile.
ran a marathon at the
Oh,
slowest
you
speed
ran
you've ever
one?
seen. Yeah, by myself. I signed up.
Dude, that's the hard. I think that's one of the hardest parts, dude. Running by yourself.
So I
For
signed up
me,
for
it's
one.
miserable.
I signed up for one during COVID. So I was very bad at running. I was like, okay, I'm just going to run a marathon. I'll get good at running that way. It's a terrible
Mm.
decision. Because then you learn how to run slow. So like
Mhm.
now it almost puts you in a hole because you can run
Yeah.
slow forever, but like you can't run fast, right? And I would just run a long run on Saturday. So let's just call it 7 miles. And then on Sunday, I would run half of that. And then then I would take a rest day. And then every other day, I would go just a 30-minute run, slow run,
Mm.
30-minute slow run. And then a long day on Saturday, half of it on Sunday. Every week, I would go up 2 miles. So like the next week, I would go 11 miles. And then I would go 13 miles. And then I would go 15 miles. And whenever I got to the week of 21 miles, and then my marathon got canceled because of COVID. And then so the day that I ran 21, I was like, I'll just keep going. And I just listened to 4 podcasts, and then put music on when I needed a little bit of more of a kick me up. I'd have Leslie just put a blue Powerade and like gummies out where like my turnaround point would be. We had a sidewalk that went 6 miles one way, so I would just go run to the end of the sidewalk and then come back. And I was like, "Hey, babe, like in an hour and 30 minutes, can you put a blue Powerade and some gummies out here?" And then I'd show up and there'd be right there. I'd drink it and go on my way. And then finally did it. The worst thing was my ankles.
See, that's one thing. Not my ankles for me, but dude, I ran yesterday. I didn't even. I mean, I've been trying to. So I'm not good at pacing. Like, I guess because I've never done any distance running. So normally, like when we did Crescendo and we had that 5K, like I did the most I've ever ran is like 5 or 6 miles, and I just go like I'm trying to beat everybody that I'm running with. So like I'm going, you know what I mean? So yesterday I went and we have this thing in Spartanburg, it's called the Rail Trail, and from one end to the other is supposed to be 2 miles. So I went down and back, and I was trying to hold like a 9-minute, 8:30 to 9-minute pace, which was fine, and ended up being like 3.75 or 3.8 miles or something like that. But afterwards, like I could kind of feel it while I was running, but when I stopped and walked to the car, when I got to the car, dude, my knees, and it was a little chilly yesterday, but that's one thing I'm worried about is my knees and my feet. Like I need to get some new shoes, find a new pair of shoes.
Get some good running shoes.
But that's one thing. I think a 4.5 hour. I think that's a pretty good goal for me.
Yeah, I think you could probably go sub 4 if you wanted to.
I think sub 4 is like a 850 mile. or
See,
9-minute mile,
dude,
maybe.
I think you totally could do that because you're like natural pace is like 8 minutes, like just going out and running.
Yeah.
You know, your
Well, that
5K,
was the
5K was
hardest part.
like a 7:30 pace.
Dude, speaking of that, dude, I had a 5K. I don't know if I told you or not. We did a 5K for my mom's nonprofit ministry that she has a few weeks ago. It's been a couple months maybe, and my goal was sub 20. And
Oh gosh, that's a vicious goal.
dude, so my goal was sub 20, and I hadn't been training for it, but it was like
That's
it
so
was like
fast.
it was like 40 days or 35 days before the before the thing. I set a goal for myself. I said I'm gonna
So what's that?
I'm
It's a
gonna run
6:32, 6:33.
something like that. I said I'm gonna run at least 1 mile every single day until the 5K, and I did, and I felt good running, and so my goal was sub 20. And when we were standing in line ready to start, I normally use the Strava app to keep my pace and everything, and
3.1, Kenneth.
to keep my time and everything in check. And I was sitting on the line, and I had my headphones in, and I got my playlist started, and they started the race before I could pull my app up. So I said, "Screw
Oh,
it! I'm just gonna go."
okay.
And so, dude, and it's a hilly course, and I had been training on flat, so I was moving. I mean, I was moving good, and dude, I came to the last straightaway, and I could see the clock. Dude, I crossed the finish line at 20:09. Dude, I was pissed.
That's so
And
fast.
see, I won the race. Like I came in first, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
my mom and them were like, "Dude, bro, that's awesome, good job." And I was like, "No, this is not okay."
No,
And
this
they were
was
like, "What are
9
you
seconds
talking about?"
from greatness.
I said, "My goal was sub 20." They said, "Yeah, but it's still good."
Do
I said, "No, it's not."
do you have your Strava? Like, do you know if it was short or long?
I don't know. I need to go back and run that same course.
Because maybe it was 3.12.
No, that's not good enough for me. I gotta that one will haunt me next year.
I'm saying if it was 3.12 miles, it was
I know,
0.02
but I can't.
long, you know?
I know, but I can't prove it. I mean, I can, but
You
that time
well,
is still.
you just did it. Yeah.
I know, but on their website, that time is still 20:09.
Oh, who cares
That's
about the
not getting
website? That's
changed.
like you said, I need to press the RX button. Like, if you did a 3.12 and say it was like 98%, we take 98% of 20 minutes and 9 seconds. It might come out to 1959.
It might. I just got to do it again.
What if it was 3.15? That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Or it could be like 3.07 and then you really had no shot.
Exactly. That's
Either
what. See, I
way,
can't.
you can be at peace.
Oh, I'm at peace.
You know, I'm
I'm
just
at
saying if
peace
it
that
was like
I'm
a
the first loser.
2033, I don't think you would be as mad.
I agree with that. But
There you go.
being that close, I
There
was
you go.
like,
And the chances of it being exactly 3.1 is very,
are
very low.
slim for
Very low.
sure. I'm just
I
gonna
think you need to
stick
go
with.
back and run
I got
that
to get better.
course and see how long that distance was. You need to give yourself peace. Next Thursday, we're going to come back and revisit this, and we're going to see how long that 5K was.
I don't know if I'll go there. I'm gonna have a sub 20 5K at some point. I know I can do it.
I mean, if you ran 20:09, you absolutely can do it. Or I mean, you should just go run 3.1 miles on a track.
Yeah.
That might be boring, but like you would.
That's my biggest thing is
I mean,
running for me is just boring.
in a hilly thing, like then you absolutely could run sub 20, like on flat ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It hurt
Yeah.
though.
When you
I
were
mean,
like, "Yeah, I don't run much," and you ran a 23-minute 5K at JR's,
dude,
and
that's
JR's was hilly too. It was hilly. It was hilly.
yeah.
Or no, you didn't run 23 because I ran 23 something. You were like,
No, you weren't far behind me. I think I was.
because I think I
I
was
don't
like
know. I can't remember.
23:40.
I think I was either 22-14 or 23-14.
It must
I
have
don't
been
know why.
22-14. I think you were 20 because I was like, what the frick did this come from? Like you said you didn't run.
And that's no joke. I didn't. I did not.
When you said that, I was like, hey, you're just gonna be good at running. Like your body's just gonna be really good at running. Like that's just what you were born to be good at running.
Dude, that's like that weekend, man. 4th place. Oh, God. So close.
Yeah, if we
So
could have done like
close.
2 more ring muscle ups.
No, I deserve that. I deserve that one. I'm a lot better at ring muscle ups now. Still not great, but I am a lot better.
I
Gosh,
wonder where we could have made
that
up the
still
difference.
haunts me.
Hey, I couldn't do the handstand walk, so
Yeah, but that Christian, his leg cramped up on the first set on the GHD, so
honestly,
you wouldn't have had time to do the handstand
his
walk.
5K is probably what killed us.
Yeah, I should have wore the vest.
You should have worn
sure.
the weight vest. You should have worn the weight vest. Yeah.
But at that point, I had never ran in a vest, and I was afraid that it was gonna. Hindsight 2020, but yeah, I should have run in that vest
because he
sure.
ran like a 29 something. Like it was like really.
Remember, we were sitting there and we were like,
"Where the freak is he?" Yeah.
Where's he at?
Yeah.
Because I think he said his leg was cramping on
Nikita
that
was like 25-30 or something like that. Yeah.
That was fun. That was a fun time. Oh gosh.
All right, man. This time next week, I want to know the distance of that 5K trail.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold me to it.
I want to know the distance.
I'll do it.
I wonder what a Grant can run a 5K in. Let's keeping it real.
Let's do Grant, you trying to run a 5K this week?
Here, we'll go. You want to go over, under 8 minutes?
He said he'll do it tomorrow. Of the 8-minute pace?
No. 8 minute difference between you two.
Oh, I don't know. 8 minutes. Gosh, that's a long time.
He's not super fit, man.
What do you think, Grant? Over 8 minutes?
Are you really that bad at running? Are you really that bad at running, Grant?
So, dude, you're saying if I run
it's funny. People give me so much crap about like being not aerobically fit, and like I don't think they understand. Amongst normal people, I'm pretty good. It's just I'm not good amongst really good people.
Dude, the average person couldn't walk a 5K, much less run.
Yeah, I was really upset about the Open. Like we were talking about the new season, and I was going off on like the Open needs to be better. It can't just be cardio city. It has to be like the Open of old. And people are like, why? Like, I don't think it was bad at all. And I'm like, they don't want what the Open was back in the day. They don't want an actual test. They don't want a well-rounded test because they could do it. And they're like, they like that everybody can do it. Mm-hmm. And because all it was cardio. All the Open is cardio. There's nothing hard in the Open at all. If the heavy test is 135-pound thrusters, this is ridiculous. After a whole Fran, you know what I mean? And I was going off on that, and then there's a lot of comments on the video, like I said, like just put a barbell down and get in shape, man. I'm just thinking to myself, guys, like I'm not talking for me. Like I want a well-rounded test. I don't want, if people are going to go straight to the 1%, we're testing for the 1%. That goes to online semifinals. we need a well-rounded it can't just be cardio bunnies, right?
Mm.
And like, yes, I know the fittest people in the world will still make it, but I still think it should be a well-rounded test. And like I got a lot of flack for it. And I'm like, let's see what y'all's 100 bar face and burpee thing is for time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, you know, I've ran a 5:58 mile, and I know I'm not Brock, but
Dude, that's
like
cooking.
that's not slow.
No.
You know?
Now, do you think, with all that being said, do you think there should be a community open and then a CrossFit open?
I don't think anybody would do it.
That's fair.
The second you put community on there where it doesn't, there's not like
Really
any
anything.
replications of it, doesn't matter. Why would you
That's
do it?
true. That's a good point. Because I mean, well, and like you said, you know, as an athlete, you know whether you're going to be in that top percent or not. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So if you do a well-rounded open, scale as needed. If you're not gonna go to semifinals, and you know
Yeah.
you're not going to
You program for the best and you scale for the rest.
Scale for the rest. So why? Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because like somebody
And like before
somebody
you get
like me,
quarterfinals, and then the test is going to be harder in quarterfinals, right? And I
Yeah.
have no problem with quarterfinals programming. I think quarterfinals programming is great, but you know, a whole lot of people got to do quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I think 10% is better than 25%, but it doesn't matter. Right. But and then quarterfinals is a well-rounded test. And then, you know, essentially the top 1% of quarterfinals gets to go, right? Because you're in the top 120 or whatever it is.
Yeah, what was it? The top 25% did quarterfinals this year?
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
I think a storm is coming.
I think so.
Yeah. I think it's going to be sad. We'll see. Hopefully I still have
Maybe JR should like brand Crash. Like it shouldn't be. You know what I'm saying? Like the fall of CrossFit and the rise of WPTH. You know?
Well, that's affiliate programming though. Like he's trying to go more into the affiliate side than like the sports side. But
that's a better business model.
All right, guys. If you have any topics, put it in the comments. Okay, we kind of just were like fooling around this week. We'll be here next Thursday.
Next Thursday at 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern Time.
Sounds good. All right.